Hmm. You can say that again, Jack. One moment, guys. Trying to sort the stream out. Greg Jones a hole with a brace, hopefully. Yeah, guys, hopefully. I'm sorry, is the stream? How's the stream looking? Let me know. See how that goes. Hello from a Burnley fan. Love Palace, hate Brighton, says Al Malone. There you go. I'm from South Korea. Hello, welcome from South Korea. You guys did well in Turf Moor. Zahara's a beast. We're on a good run of form at the moment. We're on a good run of form. Whether or not we get something, I don't know. I think we will get the win. I think that basically what happened at Brighton is a one-off. It's not going to happen again. That's what I feel. I feel that Roy will make that clear to the guys, give them a bollocking. We'll come back stronger, come back better than we were last time out. We're on a good run of form. Brighton aren't. Form, I know it's cliche, but form kind of goes out the window with this fixture in particular. But, if you were going to go off form alone, we should win this, in my opinion. Yeah, the fact that Burnley beat them 3-1, yeah, of course, these are all good results, but then this, both teams play differently in this fixture in particular. It's definitely not a game that you can just say for sure, yeah, we're going to win this. But I'm very confident. I'm very confident the way we're playing, the way we're setting up. I'm going to wait for a few more people to get in, and then I'm going to run through like my predicted lineup, things like that, and then we'll get into some questions and your guys' thoughts on the game, things like that. So let us just wait one more moment. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Love to hear your thoughts. As I said, we'll wait for a few more people and then we'll get into it a bit more detail into what I think will happen, how I think we should approach the game, lineups, predicted lineups, injury news. There's a little bit of injury news I think that we can cover. Also, if I switch over to this, let me look. Oh, the pop-up chat's not quite working yet, so I'll just stay on the original screen, guys. I'll sort the pop-up chat thing later date for another time. There we go. Okay, let me just get into it. The video, just need to go settings. There we go. Okay, cool. Right, how I think the game will go, guys. Right, I'd personally set up the way we have done the last few weeks. We're on a good run of form. Don't change anything. That's the way I approach it anyway. I think that 4-3-3 that plays as a 4-2-3-1 in defence is our best shot. I know we played that similar system against Brighton at the Amex, but that was, I think, a completely one-off game. We were just poor from start to finish in that, and it's unlike us to be poor for 90 minutes in a game. Normally we have spells. In that game we just didn't have spells and we just didn't turn up. It was really frustrating. For me, I think that we should go into this game, as I said, 4-3-3. Predicted lineup, I think Guaita back in goal. Now, I think I understand why Hennessy was put in goal against Burnley. A bit of height. He's obviously perceived to be better in the air than Guaita, especially it made sense maybe putting him in the Burnley game because of the height. You've got Crouch obviously coming off the bench. You've got their dangerous from set pieces, very renowned for their set piece ability. So I can understand in that sense why Roy put Hennessy in goal, but for a game like this against Brighton, what's at stake for the two clubs, how big the game is, I think you've got to go our best keeper, and our best keeper is Vicente at the moment. So I'd start him 100%. Don't mess about with that. Then obviously back four speaks for itself. Sakho's still going to be out, but Tompkins and Dan, they were brilliant away at Burnley, and I think Dan works really well with Tompkins. He's the leadership Dan shows alongside a leadership figure in Tompkins as well. I think it's a great combination at centre-back, personally. So I'd have them both starting with Wan-Bissaka, of course, and Van Arnold either side. That is a strong back line. And we're so lucky to now have some depth in defence. Before, it used to be such a struggle to get a fully fit team or to have cover, at least. Then, obviously, we've got two ahead of them. I would personally go for Chiarte and Milivojevic, with Max Meyer further ahead. Now, Max Meyer started in that calamity at the Amex. He didn't get much of the ball, to be fair, so it was not like I don't think you can judge any of their players because they were all poor. But Max Meyer, you know, he probably had the least amount of possession in that game out of all the Palace players. And I really think that when he starts and starts drifting out wide towards Zaha, the link-up play and the vision that he has to pick a pass and to spot Zaha, I think he's brilliant at doing that, and I think he'll be the key to unlocking the defence, the Brighton defence. So having that creativity there, nothing against Maka, and I've said this in previous videos when I predicted my predicted lineups haven't involved MacArthur. I just think that you've got to go your strongest team in a game like this, and I think that MacArthur doesn't have the creativity, the vision, the ability to pick a pass as Max Meyer does. And as I said, I think that is a great way to get at Brighton on quick counter-attacks. You need those decision-making players at the forefront. So Max Meyer starts, and then it'll be this typical front three now. I think this should be the front three, but, obviously injuries aside, this should be the front three for the rest of the season. Zaha, Townsend and Batshuayi up front. So that's how I line up personally. Let me know in the comments below or in the chat, your thoughts on the lineup. Would you agree with me there? Is there any positions you would change up? Miles says, lol, why centre Brighton? Obvious reasons, mate. Obvious reasons. No one wants to talk about Brighton. I wouldn't do that to you guys in the chat to, feature their name like that. I'm not quite sure how Brighton themselves are set up, because I think they've been rotating. They've been looking to try and they haven't rotated their team too much, but they've been struggling for form. So it makes me think that there could be some changes in that team. One big bit of news that I've heard anyway is Pascal Gross is going to be out for them, which is huge. He's probably their best player, up there with Glenn Murray this season, and it's a shame that Glenn Murray's firing them in. But yeah, I think he's up there as one of their best players this season, one of the best players that they've probably got that can attack us and threat us, and cause us trouble. So I'm very happy that he looks like he'll be out. I have to say, Basuma probably had his game of the season against us at the Amex. He was class in that game. Pains me to say it, but he ran that midfield. So hopefully, if he's involved, it'll be interesting to see if he turns up or how he plays. You've been impressed with Bat so far? Miles says yes, absolutely. Batshuayi already. Some people saying he hasn't hit the ground running, but 2 goals in 2 league games. Can't complain. You can't complain. He's the striker we've been missing. That goal he scored against Burnley was class, and that's the sort of finish that we've been missing as well. That sort of player who can just smash it in first time without thinking about it. And if that was Benteke, I feel we would have taken a touch and the chance would have been gone. So that sort of clinical poacher striker is what we've been missing, and I really hope we can sign him permanently in the summer. Getting him on loan is the first step to really trying to cement him in this team permanently. I'd like to have Schlupp, but I think he'd be a good sub on Saturday, says Jack. I'd agree there. Schlupp, again, it's hard because Schlupp has, since 29 to the turn of the new year, he's probably been one of our best players, Schlupp, and he thoroughly deserves to start in games. The problem I have is I don't think he's creative enough when going forward. He has threat on the counter with his pace and directness, as we saw against Doncaster. I know it's Doncaster, but still, the same applies. Against Brighton in this sort of game, I don't know. I personally would have Meyer ahead of him in the midfield. He doesn't get in ahead of Townsend and Zaha, obviously. So I'd love to know your thoughts, though, of course. Confident about Saturday. I think Zaha will get a goal and Schlupp in a 2-0 win. Yeah, absolutely. If Schlupp starts, I think he's been very good. As I said, he's been class when he started. I would not be upset if he started, but in my predicted lineup, personally, I'd have Meyer ahead of him, just for the creativity. And I love his link-up with Zaha, like I've said. Dan to start, says Evangelos. Yeah, absolutely. Dan and Tompkins next to each other. I think they'll be out most of the season. Scott Dan played brilliantly against Burnley, like I said. His composure on the ball. In his prime years, just a few years ago, he was in the form of his career and really looked like he'd challenged for an England spot. And I think he deserved an England call-up at that stage of his career. So it was a shame that he had that injury and he's kind of gone off the ball recently. But since coming back from the injury, he's been on fire for me. Class player, great servant of the club. Still club, since Punchin's gone, I think Punchin, I know, took club captain off of Dan. But I think he's got the club captaincy still there. I know Luke is captain, but I don't know whether he's still club captain or not, Scott Dan. Let me know in the chat, guys. Right. Also, guys, let me know your thoughts on how you think we should approach this game. I'd be interested in knowing, do you think... Obviously, last season was probably one of the best games I've been to at Selhurst. Unbelievable atmosphere, goals galore, lovely stuff. Deco flying in from Dublin, can't wait. I love this. I just love talking to people in the comments and on chats like this when from people all over the world and like Palace fans. It's crazy to see and hear from Palace fans that from different parts of the world. I'm not used to it. thank you, Deco, for the comment there, and thank you for. I hope you get there on time, and your flight isn't delayed or anything. What have we got here? Annoyed that's an early kickoff, Miles. Yeah, I am annoyed, but it's because of the nature of the game and it's a derby. I expect it now. I expect nothing less now. Unfortunately, that's the case. That's how it goes now. The ideal midfield would be Luca, Schlupp, and Meyer, in my opinion. It's hard to drop Schlupp after he's been on such good form. I agree. It's hard to drop him. Luca, you're right. Luca and Meyer could start deep and Schlupp further forward. I like that. Meyer can play in that role as he did for Schalke last season. And he's very good at that role, so he can play anywhere in that midfield, in my opinion. I like that idea a lot. Chiarte, I think a bit of physicality, and he was class against Burnley as well. So it's good to have these decisions, though. It's good to have the problem of deciding who to pick. Like, we're in a good spot right now in that sense. I completely agree with your starting lineup. I think having the two proper defensive midfielders screening the back four is going to be key, says Jack. So yeah, that's the flip side, the way I look at it. Having two really tall, really physical, really dominant centre mids right in front of the back four, just shutting any chance of counter-attacks out. And with Chiarte, there's a threat in the air. He's very good on the ball, I think. So's Luca to an extent, not as good as Chiarte, but they can launch counter-attacks from there. They both can drive with the ball as well. So I like that setup quite a bit. Biased, obviously, because it's my team, my choice in the lineup. But there you go. That's how I see it. When we played Burnley, Luca was the captain, which is not what I expected to see. What do you mean, Evangelos? Do you expect it to be Scott Dan when we're playing? Luca's for sure captain. I don't think there's any disputing that. I just thought the club captain was not Luca. It might still be Luca. It was punching, obviously, and then he went off the boil. So I'll have to check that again. I should be up to date with that, really. Jack says it comes in again. What do you think about PVA's form? He's been below average. I think he's gotten away with performances because of how well the team have played of late. He's a threat going forward. There's no doubt about it. But there's always been question marks over his defensive ability. I think he gives too much space and time to players out wide. United's a great example. I know it was Schlupp who was out there when Young scored their third goal and what ended up being the game-winning goal. But that whole game, down that side, there was so much room, and I think that's the problem defensively with Van Aanholt. He leaves a lot of space out there. He doesn't get tight to his man. He isn't naturally. I don't think he's the best. He's not the best defensively, but going forward, he offers another threat, another dynamic, overlapping runs. I think he needs a kick up the arse for sure, especially in this game. If he has a mare in this game, they could definitely target that area down that wing. Is Cuerdo, for example, it will be a threat if he's not on form. Marcel Burton, who have you got in goal and why? I go for Guaita. I think the main reason he was dropped for the Burnley game is because Roy saw Hennessy as taller, probably more physical, better in the air to challenge the aerial threat, because Guaita is smaller and he's not as good, I don't think, as Hennessy. They're both not great in the air. That's not their best attribute. I think Guaita, especially with his distribution, is not as good as Hennessy. I think that's fair to say. Hennessy's distribution is normally class. The wind was clearly a trouble for him. Made a hash of the goal Burnley scored, which was annoying. Should have been a clean sheet. He didn't have a good game, Hennessy. So I personally just stick with Guaita. No messing about with the keepers this time. He's our best keeper. Put him in goal. He's up for it as well. You can see on social media he's so up for this game. So why change it? That's a good point, Jack. Yeah, we don't have a backup left back. It could be interesting to see, with the Wan-Bissaka situation last season when we had injury crisis and he came in and did so well. Be interesting to see if we had a youngster in the academy who'd be willing to step up and just be there as a second choice left back on the bench. But you're right. I think that's the one area we need to look at in the transfer window for sure in the summer. Be interesting. Put your transfer thoughts in the chat as well, guys. I know we've only just gone past the January window not too long ago, but when it comes to the summer window, because it's not long till the season finishes now. We're into single figures with games left. I'd love to know your thoughts on who you think we should target in the window. Who would be your choice? in terms of positions that we need to target, things like that. But yeah, the fact that Van Arnold's gone off the boil a bit is probably because he's got no one to challenge him in training, and he's guaranteed that starting position every week. And I said the same thing about Benteke. I think that was a big thing last season, why he was so out of form and off the boil. Not only was it because his confidence was lower than I don't know, something low or well. I don't know. That was a poor way of describing it. But because his confidence was so low, not just that, but also the fact that there was no one really challenging his starter spot. Wickham had been injured all of last season. We had Sorloth in January, but until January, he had no one to really challenge him. So yeah, I think that was a massive contribution to his form. And same applies to left back. Are Brighton fans already in your Twitter mentions? There are Brighton fans who keep messaging, atting me on Twitter, and it's, I just ignore them. It was a shocker before Christmas. We know that, but we will be better. I'm 100% certain we couldn't be worse than that Brighton game. But I'm 100% certain we'll get something out of this if we play the way if we played the way we did against Burnley last week in this game at home with the atmosphere. Early kickoff, the pressure will be on Brighton as well because it's obviously a derby game and they're below us in the league and they need the results. I'm confident we'll get a result. I'm just confident. I think at home at Selhurst against Brighton, we've got a very good record. I can't remember the last time we lost to them at home. I'll put in the chat down below if you know. You think the scum will pay us a lot of respect because they're poor form. Yeah, I think that equally though, I don't know how much that would play into our hands if they sat deep and let us attack them because we are so much better counter-attacking ourselves. So it may be a very stale for a derby game or not for a game against Brighton. I know the fans are going to be up for it. In the first 10 minutes, it will be bouncing, rocking. It will be for 90 minutes in the home end at least. But I think that we will probably start off quite strong and it will be quite end-to-end, I feel, at the start. High tempo that normally happens. There could be an early goal, as there were plenty last season. But I feel that the actual, over the course of 90 minutes, I think it could be quite stale, actually. I feel it could be two teams looking to sit deep and hoping the other team attack and looking to break. So if that happens and we have to attack them and force them to counter-attack us, I think that will play into their hands a lot better. I think we're so much better. Although Burnley was a good example last week of how a team sat quite deep in Burnley looking to counter-attack, and we managed to pick them off. They did have a lot more possession. We sat deep. We were quite poor in the first half, but second half it was almost a little bit different. We had more of the ball. We looked to attack more regularly. So it was a bit of a flip to how it usually goes away from home, which builds me confidence that we can play in a slightly different style, and we don't have to purely rely on counter-attacking from deep, letting the opposition have the ball and hoping that we can stay solid as we always do in defence, or most of the time we do in defence, and break away with the pace we have. So that's a positive for sure. Right. I honestly believe that the quality difference will come on show in this game. December was a tragic performance that won't happen again. Jack, totally agree. I feel that hopefully the way it should have done in December, our quality should shine through in this one. You can't say that for sure, obviously, but I'm very confident that it will pan out that way. Let me just... Sorry, guys, if it's starting to lag a little